Call to order, regular council meeting for the corporation of the Township of Brunel, Lindach, and Raglan, the 7th day of February 2024 at 7:01 p.m. Roll call, Councillor Banks.
Here.
Councillor Kaufeld. I'm here, Councillor Quad.
Present.
And Mayor Yon is absent also. So land acknowledgement, as we gathered this evening, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of this council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history. We're extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. Adoption of the agenda. That we, the council for the corporation of the Township of Brunel, Lindach, and Raglan, adopt the agenda as amended, include an additional item under subsection B in closed session item 11.1.2, tangible capital assets, asset retirement obligations policy, and item 13.4, bylaw to amend bylaw 2003-13. Any mover on that? Councillor Quad, seconder Councillor Banks. Any questions on the resolution?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor?
Yes.
And that is carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest with any of the matters before us tonight?
None on me.
None? Okay. We have no mayor's address. Do we have a clerk's report?
Evening. So, the month of January, I attended 4 meetings via Zoom. Last week, the auditor was in, completed the 2023 year end. So we can now start the budgeting process for 2024. And if the council is in favor, I'd like to propose a first budget date meeting for February 21st at 7 p.m.
What day is that?
It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that's fine.
We'll all write it down.
What time, regular time?
I think regular time 7, yeah. And that's all I have for.
Okay. So we have one delegation tonight, and we have a presentation from Gallagher Benefit Services Group, Jane Lazansky, and she's via Zoom. So.
And I'm here. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you fine, Jane.
Okay, did you want me to just jump into the?
I think so, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I have a very, oh, you'll have to enable me to share screen.
Yeah, it should be good.
Okay. All right, try it again. There we go. And hopefully that is up now.
Yep, it is.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to the council on the project that we're embarking on for the township. We are very excited to get it kicked off and moving along. So I'm just going to quickly go over the project, the kind of the scope of the project, and you know, some of the steps that we're going to be doing, and then a brief background as to what's going on in the labor market. So really Gallagher, the formal title of our organization is Gallagher Benefit Services Canada Group Inc., which is why we go by Gallagher, because that's too much of a mouthful. But we were retained by the township through an RFP process to undertake this compensation review, and it really to make sure that the organization provides appropriate levels of compensation for the organization, to the employees of the organization. And I use the word appropriate very specifically. It's not to say that we're coming in and we're, you know, looking to increase your salaries by 30%, 40%, or whatever. It's not our intent to do that. It's really to make sure that you have compensation that meets your needs and is affordable and makes you competitive and pay equity compliant as well. And I'll speak to the pay equity piece in a little bit. The scope of the review, it is a comprehensive review. So we are going to be looking at job evaluation, which touches on the internal equity part of the organization. So it's really evaluating jobs based on the job content, using a standard tool to come up with a value of the job. We also have to do job evaluation in order to meet our pay equity compliance obligations and do that process. We're also going to take a look externally at the external marketplace to see what's going on in other municipalities of similar sized and similar structures, similar services that you have, to make sure that you are paying competitively. Not to say that you have to pay leading, but we definitely don't want you to be lagging in the market either, because you do have to maintain your employee group that you have right now, and you want to be able to attract the candidates that you can when you do have vacancies that arise. Third element will be the pay equity, which is a legislative compliance piece, and it is all about female gender job classes and male gender job classes. And it's an obligation, a compliance obligation for the organization. What we'll do after that is we take all of these pieces together. So internal equity, external equity, and then pay equity, and we bring it all together, and we will come up with a proposed salary structure for you that has steps in a range or steps or a range, and then making sure that positions that are deemed to be of similar value are paid in the same pay band. So then the background to the assignment, the last formal market assessment was completed, and I put the word never there because it's my understanding in having a conversation with Virginia that she's not aware of a comp review ever being completed, at least not a formal compensation review. This one is very structured. So we're starting fresh. You have been applying annual economic increases to your salaries that you do offer to the employees, and that's, economic increases, as we generally know, are really just to keep you in step with, hopefully, as best as possible with inflation, to make sure that you're not lagging behind that and then really losing your employees. Pay equity, because you've never done a formal review, you have no evidence that you've ever achieved pay equity compliance. The obligation occurred or started in the 1990s, early 1990s. And so therefore, if you've never actually achieved pay equity compliance, then you do have a liability potentially sitting there, at least an obligation to show evidence that you are, compliant with the legislation. Recruitment and retention, my understanding is you haven't had any recent issues with attracting candidates or, a lot of retirements going on or retaining employees, but there are some pending or potential retirements coming in the near future. And in your location that you're sitting in, not only are you trying to compete with other municipalities for municipal type jobs, but you're also competing with a very robust and healthy construction sector, typically in the province. There's been some, I use the word lightly, restructuring. It's really, my understanding is that there's a couple of jobs that have changed recently. And so, or you've got new jobs that are coming into the organization being introduced. So now we have to figure out where do they fit in the organization hierarchy of your pay bands. So we're going to be incorporating that. So this was all kind of the driver behind why we're doing the review. Looking outside, the labor market, I don't think I'm going to tell you anything that you don't already know, but just to kind of give you a background on the municipal sector labor market, it's been very, very aggressive across Ontario and across Canada. I have clients that are not just municipal Ontario. I have clients in the East Coast and the West Coast and the Middle Coast as well, in between. And what's happening is the baby boomer has really, the whole baby boomer retirement cycle has really hit the municipal sector in full force right now. And so we have this wave of retirements that are going on, and it's across all job families. So it's not just your senior management position that's retiring, it's the professionals, the building inspection, the planning positions, engineering technologist positions. These are all facing a lot of the retirements, and laborers. We have laborers that are retiring as well. So you're creating a lot of demand in the sector, particularly for those municipal type jobs, municipal planning, municipal engineering, municipal finance. Building inspection is very unique, and even bylaw officers are finding challenges to recruit for them. So normally when you have, let's, for lack of a better word, the old going out, then you look to the youth coming in, and your new entrances to the labor or to your employment situation. But anecdotally, I say we see that there are fewer entrants, new graduates coming out of the colleges and universities that are seeking municipal jobs. I believe, post-COVID, we're looking at a lot more competition now for those types of areas of study and skill from the private sector, and they can definitely get a lot more money in their pocket when they're coming out as a new grad in the private sector. And highly skilled, experienced mid-level managers. So if you do have some of your senior management leaving, you might have a pocket of or a pool of middle-level managers or supervisors that are there. But what I hear from a lot of my clients is that some of those individuals are new to that level, and they just don't have the skill to fill a lot of the senior management, the strategic type positions in the organization. So really what we have going on in the marketplace is a shrinking pool of candidates, growing number of vacancies, and that means that your candidates now have a really good bargaining position to be in, and they are exercising that advantage across the sector and across the province. And when they come in and they say, no, I'm not going to accept a job at the bottom end of the range, I want to take it at the top end of the range. Well, if you have a multi-incumbent or a similar job that's around there, and that incumbent's been around for a number of years and they're lower in the range, now you've got a new person coming in, leapfrogging over top of them. So it starts to create some tension in the organization. Components of doing a pay or a compensation policy or a compensation program, these kind of reiterate some of the boxes that I had on the first slide, which is fairness. So compensation ultimately is about felt fair pay. People want to feel that they are fairly treated and recognized, and it's fairly treated and recognized relative to other people in the organization, because we're all human. We look at the person beside us and see what they're doing. We kind of know what they're getting paid. And sometimes it's good. Sometimes it kind of rubs people the wrong way because they want to understand how is it that they're paid more than me, and yet I feel that I'm working harder. So we do the fairness, which is the internal equity through job evaluation. And we come up with a numerical value for a job, and then we can do some relativities of those job evaluation points. Compliance, as I said, is about female job rates compared to the value of male jobs within a pay band, and making sure that they are, the female job has to be at least as much as, if not more than, the male job class. Competitiveness speaks to all of the external equity, the attraction and retention. We also have to look at defining where do you want to be as an organization in the marketplace. Do you want to be a little bit above the middle of the market, or do you want to, the most, economical and competitive placement to be is the middle of the market. And I would never suggest that you come in less than the middle of the market. It's number one, not a very good strategy for recruiting and retaining your staff to say, hey, come work for us, we pay low. So you want to at least say we pay, we're in the middle of our group, our comparator group. And then our last pillar that we use in our compensation reviews is affordability. As I mentioned, we want to make sure that we have appropriate levels of compensation. And it's because ultimately the results of the review have to come before the council to approve and implement. And we have to be mindful that it is public sector funding and that we have to have some regard to the budget. So that's our pillars. In terms of pay equity, I don't know if I can click that. The pay equity legislation, all public sector employers must achieve pay equity, achieve pay pay equity and maintain pay equity. So it's not enough to just, we have some clients that said, oh yeah, we did it in 1990 when we had to, but we're okay. Unfortunately, that's not the case. You have to maintain, so that should pay equity review services come knocking on the door and say, hey, we're doing an audit, a random audit, you say you're compliant, where's your evidence? And so we have to make sure that you have that evidence to be within compliance of the legislation. Pay equity is equal pay for work of equal value. It's not equal pay for equal work. The latter part of that is, if I'm a planner and I'm female and my colleague's a planner and he's a male, we're both doing the same work, we're paid the same rate, we're paid within the same pay band. What pay equity addresses is jobs that are different but of similar value. So, the nurse versus the plumber, the administration versus the technicians or the technologists, and supervisors and of clerical positions versus supervisor of operational positions. So it's trying to get the value of those jobs, and where the value is the same, then we have to pay them the same. So it's comparing job usually done by women with different jobs compared by typically done by men. I know sometimes people, hear that we have to be compliant with pay equity and it's all about male and female, and it does start to sound a little bit foreign that we, in this day and age, we have to talk about gender equity, but it's still an active piece of legislation, and you do still have to make sure that you don't have any inherent or systemic issues within your pay system. And I've covered off the last couple of points there. So scrolling ahead here. So the approach that we're going to do to tackle the internal equity component of it is we are going to review the job descriptions that have been provided by Virginia. Some of them are a little up to date, and some are maybe not so up to date or not so robust. So what we're going to do is we will review those job descriptions. We will have conversations in order to do the job evaluations. We'll have conversations with Virginia or with the manager or with the incumbent directly in order to make sure that we have a full understanding of the position and make an accurate evaluation. And then we will, in the end, update some of the job descriptions that are more dated than others. We will be using the job evaluation tool that is one of our proprietary tools. It's been proven as a pay equity compliant tool or mechanism to evaluate jobs on the basis of skill, effort, responsibility, and working conditions, which are required under the legislation. So we have the tool, we have the job descriptions that are going to be the foundation, and then we will evaluate all of the jobs and we'll create a banding structure for you. A banding structure being, once we come up with points for all of the positions, and there's granted there's only 16 positions, so it's not going to be a banding structure of 30 bands, but we will come up with a banding structure that says, jobs that are rated within this point to this point fall into band 1, and so on, and into band 2, so on. So we'll come up with that, and that will help us for our pay equity analysis and for developing proposed job rates. The external review, we come up with 11 comparator organizations, so looking at municipalities, obviously, of similar size and geographic locations. And so that helps to help us understand what challenges or what's the going rate, so to speak, in the area. Most of them are on the smaller side. We do have the town of Bancroft and the town of Renfrew in there as well. They've been defined and identified as your competition. You are, this is generally within your area of recruitment is from these locations. So we're going to reach out to all of those comparator organizations, and we're going to complete the job matching. We'll ask them to send us their salary information, their organizational structures. I've worked with a couple of these municipalities already. Town of Renfrew, in fact, is one of our clients. I've worked with Limerick. and some of the other municipalities indirectly through those other organizations. So we're going to gather that information, do the job matching. So we'll take one of your jobs, your clerk treasurer, and we'll say, okay, what's the clerk treasurer in the other municipalities, and make sure that we are looking at the same scope of responsibilities, and do the matching. If we find out of the 11 comparators, let's say we have 10 job matches from those 11 comparators, and 9 of them are in, let's say, the $30 range for a particular job, then we might find one that's in the $50 range, even though on the surface, or when we dig down deeper, we find that the job seems to be a good match. There's something unique about that job that's generating that pay rate that is outside of the norm of the rest of the group. So we'll remove these outliers. So it's either on the high side or the low side, because we don't want that to influence that particular anomaly to influence our overall recommendations. So we talk about wanting to be competitive, and it's a term a lot of people throw out and say, well, what exactly does that mean? How do I know if we're competitive? So there's no, that I'm aware of, there's no, hard and fast rule, but I tend to use this as my gauge for defining competitive placement in the marketplace. So if we say that you want to be aligned to the middle of the market median, or 50th percentile, whatever term you want to use. If your job is 5% or above or 5% below that target market rate, then we say you're generally in that at market position. If you're in the 5 to 10% range, the yellow on the chart there, we say you're competitive, but you might want to keep an eye on those, because you do have the possibility of starting to migrate away from the market more. If you have jobs in the red zone where you're 10% below the market, that's that is the going rate for the market of those skills, then we say those jobs are at risk. And just conceptually thinking about it, if I'm doing this job and I'm sitting here in this location and I can, get a job in another municipality, I don't have to move. I can still commute to that municipality doing the exact same job, but I can get 10% more. That's a noticeable difference that you can see in your paycheck. So that's why we say these are the ones that are at risk, is where you're really edging in that outer area of being competitive to the marketplace. Next steps. So what we are hoping to do once we complete this council overview is to make sure that we confirm the market comparators with you, get your feedback if there are any concerns about the ones that are there. Then we will proceed with soliciting them and gathering the information. We are already starting to gather the job information and get going on the job evaluation part. Once we do that, we'll create the banding structure and then incorporate the market information into that banding structure, and then come up with a proposed grid for your 2024 year, fiscal year. And then we will also prepare implementation costs. So if we have some changes, then how do we take your incumbents from the old grid, put them into the new grid? And there's a couple of mechanisms that we can do there. And depending on how far you are from market, if we need to introduce some cost mitigation strategies to help bridge you or phase you into the new grid so it doesn't become cost prohibitive. We'll complete the pay equity analysis as well, and then you'll have the analysis and you'll have a pay equity plan for your files, and then you can be comfortable that you are in compliance. We generally make sure that our proposed job rates that we're coming up with are pay equity compliant, that we don't unnecessarily create issues for you in that regard. So that's why we'll have the pay equity completed, and I believe that's the end. I can stop sharing somehow.
We'll get it switched.
Not sure how I stop sharing. Stop sharing. There I go. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Jane, for your presentation. Like you said in part of your presentation, I know this is something that council, it needs to be done, we haven't ever done it, like you said. So the information we take and receive and move on from there will definitely go a long way to help the municipality, so. Does any other member of the council have any questions?
No questions at this time, no.
No.
Good presentation,
Very
thank you.
good.
Okay,
Okay, well, we look forward to the results.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jane.
thank you. Okay, have a good evening.
You too.
Take care.
Yes. Okay, so we'll now go down to the adoption of the minutes. That we, the council of the corporation of Township of Brunel and Knocken Raglan, hereby adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting of January the 3rd, 2024 as presented. I need a mover. Councilor Banks, secondary Councilor Quad. Any errors or omissions that you see on the minutes? No.
No, I see.
Okay, so fine, I'll call for the vote then, all in favor. And that is carried. Our next resolution, the council for the corporation of Township of Brunel, Lindock and Raglan accept the chief building official 2023 summary report as information. I need a mover on that, Councilor Quad, the seconder, Councilor Banks. Any questions of the report?
No, pretty straightforward.
It's, yeah, no, pretty straightforward, and it was practically comparable to the year before, I believe, it was.
It is.
Yeah, as far as permits and stuff, so,
Looks pretty good. Looks
Yeah.
like 24 minutes.
yeah. Yeah, so I'll call for the vote then, all in favor, and that is carried. We have another resolution before us, item 9.2. That council for the corporation of the Township of Brunel, Lindock and Raglan support the fundraiser for Luke Bird and family by donating 1 hour of ice time and 2 skate sharpenings for raffle prizes, and all proceeds from the canteen on the night of February 10th, 2024, from 6 to 9 p.m. I need a mover on that. Councilor Banks, seconder, Councilor Quad. Any questions or comments on this initiative?
No, good,
I mean, it's very.
good idea.
It's a good idea, very straightforward.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea. I mean, it's very tragic that Luke and his family lost their house, and I think anything that staff and council can do to support them in this time of need is very welcome, so. Yeah, so if there's no more comments, all in favor?
Yes.
And that is carried. We're now down to correspondence. That we, the council for the corporation of the Township of Brunel, Lindock and Raglan, hereby accept the correspondence as circulated. I need a mover, Councilor Quad, seconder, Councilor Banks. Are there any of the correspondence that council wishes to perhaps separate out to support at a later date or to comment on?
None for me at this time.
No, yeah.
Your worship, I had even,
Yeah, we skipped over them. Very good.
hey,
We'll skip over something.
Were you looking at some of the correspondence? I know there was one I was looking for too, and that was actually 10.5, I had wrote down.
yes, I'd like to push council attention to 10.5, the expansion of lifespan of fire apparatus. I think that's something that council would be interested in bringing out.
Yeah, no, I know I had that one wrote down also, like, anything that we can do to extend the life of our apparatus. Saves the municipality money, right? And as long as it's feasible and everything's safe, I think it makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Does that just have to do with some inspection that has to be done to extend lifespans or?
Well, like, the big fire trucks and all that, like, no, but
They're saying that your front line apparatus are to be retired within 20-year lifespan.
So that's
So
the cycle of 20 years.
if those apparatus don't see much action and are still safe to use and pass the required pump testing and annual inspections, that there should be no reason why those apparatus are able to.
Yeah, so it's just a safety inspection to extend. Yeah. Save a lot of money. That's what it is.
Those a second piece I would like to push your attention to, Tim, but cover that would be for the
10, 11.
demo. Yes, the provincial national firefighting strategy. There's one more, Tammy, from yours, yeah.
That's in new business.
That's in, oh, you pushed. So kind of allowed from Cal Township. Great, yeah, let's do these correspondence. You want to say?
This council agree with
Yes,
those two
yeah,
requests?
for sure. Bring this forward for sure. Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah. I don't know how councilors felt about item 10.7. There's carbon tax. It was basically a call on the federal government to do away with the carbon tax. Um, It just goes on to say, whereas the tax has very little to reduce pollution and emissions. Or it's, adding costs to everything that a lot of
It's
people-
tagged on.
Yeah, it's tagged on everything, so I don't know if council will agree in supporting that one.
Then bring it forward.
And Bill, Wayne?
Yep.
Okay. So if there's nothing else in correspondence that council wishes us to sort out, fine. We can give you another minute. Okay then, so I'll call for the vote then, all in favor of accepting the correspondence, and that is carried. Okay, so now we're down to new business, I believe, items 11. I believe the first 3 or so were resolutions brought forward from the last meeting to support, support correspondence and past correspondence. The first one is the council for the Corporation Township Bruno Lindmark and Ragland support item 11.1, strong merit powers from the Western Ontario Warden's Office. So I'll call for a mover on that. Councillor Quad, seconder, Councillor Banks, any questions or comments on the resolution? No, approved. Okay, I'll call for the vote and all in favor. And that is carried. Item 11.2 was another correspondence item, brought forward as a resolution. The council for the Corporation Township Bruno Lindmark and Ragland support item 11.2, cemetery transfer abandonment administration and management support. I need a mover on that, Councillor Quad, secondary Councillor Banks. Any questions or comments? I believe the resolution is basically supporting more help from support from the government in the abandoned cemeteries, so I'll call for the vote, all in favor, and that is carried. The next resolution, the council for the Corporation Township Bruno Lindmark and Ragland support item 11.3, amendment to the Occupational Health and Safety Act to clarify the definition of employer. I need a mover on that, Councillor Banks, Councillor Quad. Any questions? No. Okay, I'll call for the vote, all in favor, and that is carried. So item 11.4 is a little different. So the resolution is that we, the council for the Township of Bruno Lindmark and Ragland, hereby approve both 2024 Madawaska and Illiloo Public Library contracts. So I need a mover on that, Councillor Quad, Councillor Banks. Any questions on the resolution? I know this is kind of a yearly thing that we do, and I believe we put with our public libraries, right? So,
Good.
yeah, okay, so I'll call for a vote then, all in favor, and that is carried. Item 11.5. And basically what I'm seeing. So we have this letter, directed to the clerks and members of council. And what they do have is a sample resolution, that they would wish, for council to support, I believe. Or to write up their own, I think, consent. Correct?
Yeah,
So would council be in support? I guess we bring that back to the next meeting.
I can drop the resolution in right now, if that's what the council wishes.
This
So
council
a little bit more information
Yeah,
on.
sure.
your worship. So this is a project that ARS has been working on for some time now, and it's developed with a college, and they're pushing to have a public works operators program to be able to offer in Ontario, to help mitigate the shortage of public works employees and be able to bring them into the workforce already trained and ready to go. The program even offers a DZ for the athletes as well, so it's really good initiatives and
Well, doesn't, unemployment offer stuff like that, like those, courses? Like to get your AZ license, your DZ and your, heavy equipment operator licenses and all that?
you're right, Councilor Banks, but this course is specific to public works.
Oh,
So it's road maintenance, road construction.
oh, okay.
Everything to be able to maintain the municipality infrastructure, also like this is getting. The courses that you speak of are, yeah, they are operator courses for pieces of
Yeah.
equipment.
Okay,
Yeah.
so they do train them how to operate pieces of equipment.
They get some equipment training,
Yeah.
they get some, the management of infrastructure.
Yeah.
And he's at it. It's a really good,
Yeah,
really good program. I hope they're able to,
yeah, they're looking to get it, or just
to get it off the ground.
Yeah, get it off the ground.
well, they gotta do something, I mean, people are so short of workers.
Get into like a college program or something.
Yeah,
I forget which college or it's in here, which one they're working with.
so they're probably working with a lot of them.
There's one in particular
What
with
they
the
mentioned, then,
Fanshawe. Fanshawe, yeah, so, yeah.
Great idea, you know, good stuff, yeah, yeah, and the
Yeah, for sure.
workforce.
The resolution's ready.
You're ready, okay.
Okay, so we do have a resolution, it's been prepared by staff, so. In support of, request. And the resolution said, whereas municipal public works departments from across the province of Ontario provide invaluable services to our communities, ensuring health and safety of all residents. And whereas if it was not for our municipal public works employees from across the province of Ontario maintaining our public road systems, our communities would not be able to function as emergency personnel, could not respond to calls, school buses could not get our children to school, residents would not be able to get to work, school or appointments, and many more basic functions would not be able to happen. And whereas municipal public works departments are already feeling the impacts of the labor shortage, which will only be exacerbated over the next 3 to 5 years, which will cause level of service municipalities are able to provide to ensure the health and safety of our residents to decrease. And whereas there is currently no provincial-wide course that properly trains potential municipal public works employees, specifically related to municipal heavy equipment. Therefore, we're resolved that the Township of Brudenell, Lyndoch, and Raglan supports the work of the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors to develop a municipal equipment operator course to address this issue. And that the Township of Brudenell, Lyndoch, and Raglan calls on the Province of Ontario's Ministry of Labour, Training, Immigration, and Skilled Trades to fully fund the municipal equipment operator course in 2024 through the Skills Development Fund. And that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Labour, Training, Immigration, and Skilled Trades, David Cassini, the Township of Brudenell, Lyndoch, and Raglan, member of provincial parliament, John Yakubuski, and the Association of Ontario Roads Supervisors. So I need a mover, Councillor Banks, and second one, Councillor Quad. I think we've already had the discussion on it, and said it's a good idea. So, call for the vote then. All in
Yes.
favor, and it is carried. And we're down to item 11.6.
Odds there, Jim, I lost her in the.
Okay. Okay, so. Okay, so we have a resolution. Be it hereby resolved that the council of the township of Brunel and Knockaragon approves and authorizes staff to submit an application to the Emergency Management Ontario's Community Emergency Preparedness Grant and authorizes the deputy clerk to sign the necessary documents associated with the grant. I'll need a mover on that. Councillor Quad, secondary Councillor Banks. Questions from council or information from staff?
Information on the grant?
Yep, so this grant is specific to emergency preparedness. The staff has looked into numerous different options to, purchases and things that we can do for this. And we discovered that one of our biggest ones that we could do to apply for this grant would be purchase a sandbagger machine. We could produce large quantities of sandbags at a moment's notice. In order for the application, I just need the resolution authorizing me to sign it.
Sounds good, sounds good to me. Any other questions?
Cool.
No?
Yeah, it'll save a lot of work on the fire department side.
Yeah.
Grants.
Makes the job easier.
Grants.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Apply for them.
yeah, exactly.
In the grant application, it was very limited to what was eligible for the applications.
That's good.
Perfect. Okay, I'll call for the vote then, all in favor? And that is carried. We're down to item 11.7, so that council for the corporation of the township of Brunel, Dundalk and Dragon hereby directs the clerk treasurer to bring this position recruitment and retention for various Bay and area requests to the budget meeting. So I need a mover on that. Councillor Quad, Councillor Banks, questions or comments? And we'll have a letter from the physician recruitment committee on a request. At this time, we wanted to talk to the issue. Or I know I was talking to Valerie and there's been some further developments within the request for information for a later meeting. So I was asked if we could table the resolution till a future meeting, if that's okay. So I guess to table it, I will need a mover then, Councillor Paul and Councillor Banks, all in favor? Okay, that is carried. Okay, item 11.8. That the council for the township of Brunel, Dundalk and Dragon hereby approve and adopt the asset management plan, facility condition assessment report mandated by Ontario Regulation 588/17. I need a mover on that. Councillor Banks, second Councillor Quad. Any questions? I know there's a lot of information.
Yeah, I know.
for Staff for council.
What did
So,
this, pardon
I know there's a lot of information there from council to.
me? Yeah, we should have broke it up a little bit, like some for each meeting. But there's a lot of it in there. But anyways, what did that cost us?
I don't have the number on my fingertips at the moment.
No, like 20,000-30,000?
I don't know the exact number.
No, I don't know the
Broke into
exact-
different phases. One was the asset management, for the road study. There was another portion that had the BCA's. There was an amendment or a change order for those ones to add a couple of the smaller buildings. And there's still one more phase to go, so I don't have that breakdown at the moment.
Like, to me, he could have grouped like all the fire halls together instead of, like, you know, just make sort of like a, you know, a summary. You know, fire hall A needed this and B needed that, and, I mean, he provided pictures and everything else.
It's a very detailed. very
Yeah, it was very
report,
detailed.
That's what they.
Yeah, it's a good study.
Oh, it was a good study, but I mean,
So what does the final part of the, or
At the end, they're gonna give us a list of, in this year, you need to budget X number of dollars for these buildings, and
Okay, that's what.
It's to help with budgeting.
Yeah, yeah, no,
it's
I,
part of the legislative requirement for override
yeah.
to meet this. This is this one is now complete before the deadline,
Okay,
so we're ahead of the game now.
okay. Yeah, that was simply my question. How can we, or is there gonna be you know, something given the council later on to formulate that, so it's an easier view, right? Okay, perfect.
Like, I'm gonna have to go back and just read some of them again, because like I say, I tried to make a quick, you know. But
Yeah.
there's so many, like, I think there was something like 700 pages,
Yeah,
you know?
And I do have a printed copy of it in the office if you wanted to see a paper copy of it, you're gonna print one first.
No,
No, I don't blame you.
no, if the next phase does involve a summary for council.
Well, yeah, it'll boil it all down.
Exactly, because I kind of think back of what the county has, and basically, you know, you get an update that breaks it down, but here's your asset. Here's a year that we should be spending X amount of dollars, it puts it in a nice chart, that's what I envision for council down the road. So,
Yeah, it should be a roadmap, it'll kind of tie it all
Yeah.
together and you,
Yeah.
maybe it'll be a 5-year plan. and-
Exactly, yeah, or longer.
Yeah.
Like you say, what it does help council then do is manage and budget for it, specifically, it says, well, here's how much money you should be. You know, in this year,
Then you
whatever.
look at years, you bring some extra.
But it
money.
also, yeah, but it also helps you then apply, you can at least have something to say to the governments, the entire professional government, well, this is how much money we need, but this is how much we're short. You know, this is where we need the funding. Yeah,
It's good.
perfect. Okay, then, I'll call for the vote then, all in favor. And that is carried. Item 11.9, community safety and well-being plan resolution. The council for the corporation of the township of Greenbelt and Knock and Raglan hereby accept the January 30th community safety well-being minutes and wellness day event as information. So I need a mover on that. Councilor Vaughn, and secondary Councilor Banks. Any questions on the information for you?
Looks like a good program.
Yeah, no, it looks like it'll be an interesting day.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's no other questions, then I'll call for the vote, all in favor. And that is carried. Item 11.10, that council for the corporation of the township of Brunel, Lindau and Raglan approved the land severance application B 187/23 from Jacob and Tara Shiner for the creation of one new lot, providing that all the conditions as listed in the county of Merkley planning report concerning this division of land are met. Any mover on that? Councilor Vaughn, secondary Councilor Banks. Any questions on the resolution? Well, it's just, severance.
Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, just straightforward severance.
We'll call for the vote then, all in favor, and that is carried. The next resolution of, 11.11. The council for the corporation of the township of Brunel, Lindau and Raglan approve the land severance application B 177/23 B 178/23 B 179/23 B 180/23 from Keith Kinder and Lynn Wood for the creation of 3 new lots and 1 lot addition. Providing that all the conditions as listed in the county of Renfrew planning report concerning this division of land are met. I need a mover for that. Councilor Quad, a secondary, Councilor Banks. I'll ask again, any questions? Severance application, all the information's there.
Yeah, everything's there.
Yeah, I'll call for the vote then, all in favor. And that is carried. The next resolution that we, the council for the corporation of township of Brunel, Lindau and Raglan adopt the tangible capital assets, asset retirement obligations policy as presented. I need a mover on that. Councilor Banks, Councilor Quad, seconds. Any questions or comments from staff on this, resolution or the information that's within it?
So this is something that came about from last week's, year end with the auditor. We need a policy to adopt, to deal with our tangible assets. So regulation, financial statements.
Okay. Any questions, council, about the new policy? I'll call for the vote then, all in favor. And that is carried. We're now down to financial reports. We have an arrears report and a resolution that council for the corporation of Township of Bruno, Lindog, and Raglan, except for the arrears report as presented. I need a mover on that. Councilor Quad, seconder. Councilor Banks. We do have an arrears report. The treasurer. Would like to have any comments on it, or it's
Pretty well explanatory unless council has any questions.
No real questions,
Okay.
pretty simple.
Yeah, for now, exactly. Yeah. Call for the vote then, all in favor? That is carried. We have another resolution. Laptop's okay, Councilor Quad?
Yep, good.
Resolution that council for the corporation Township of Bruno, Lindog, and Raglan accept the treasurer's statement of remuneration and expenses report as presented. Need a mover. Councilor Banks, seconder Councilor Quad. Of course, we have the remuneration report, for council, so. Everybody's information. Call for the vote, all in favor, and that is carried. We're now down to bylaws. So we have the zoning amendments that we, the council for the corporation Township of Bruno, Lindog, and Raglan, hereby adopts bylaw 2024-05 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 8708 of the former Township of Bruno, Lindog is amended and have been introduced and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. I need a mover on that. So Councilor Quad, a secondary Councilor Banks. So basically, yeah, this is just what we're approving what we did in the public meetings. I'll call for the vote then, all in favor, and that is carried. Item 13.2, that we, the council for the corporation Township of Bruno, Lindog, and Raglan, hereby adopts bylaw 2024-06 being a bylaw to authorize the destruction. Certain records of the corporation of the Township of Bruno, Lindog, and Raglan have been introduced, read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. I need a mover on that. Councilor Banks, seconder, Councilor Quad. Any questions of council on the matter?
Yeah, I'm just wondering who decides what records get, well, destroyed or whatever?
So, this is an update to I believe the bylaws from 1999.
Yeah.
We pulled from other municipalities to see what, how many years they keep certain records. A lot of this stuff is regulated that we have to keep.
Yeah,
And
like
destroy.
financial probably.
Yeah, and it was reviewed by the auditor last week when he was in, and he has
He said, okay.
agreed to what we have.
Well, no, I just wondered how you decided, like, you know, and then all of a sudden, somebody comes back, well, what about this? Well, sorry, those records were destroyed.
Yeah,
The
no,
guidance,
Yes.
kind of provided by the province on a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Yeah, and within the bylaw, there's a schedule A and B is the ones that can
That's
and
right,
can't
yeah.
be, you know. Be destroyed, so. Yeah,
And then they have their, I didn't read that part of it, but I'm sure there's retention times and all that, so it's all in there. So.
yeah.
a lot of it is 7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The existing bylaw that we have right now, everything is 7 years, other than what we have to keep forever. And with the new updated one, some of the stuff like correspondence and whatnot, is 3 years now, so.
Well, they probably lowered it.
I think the bulb's going away.
The 7 is pretty standard.
Yeah.
The outside of the.
Yeah.
Government here.
Exactly, yeah. Uh-oh.
I didn't do nothing. Well, there it is, back up.
Okay, so if there's no more questions then?
So,
No,
Okay, I'll call for the vote, all in favor, and that is carried. So. Okay, and we have another bylaw, and it's enter into an agreement that we, the council for the corporation Township of Bruno, Lindog, and Raglan, hereby adopts bylaw 2024-07, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into a license agreement between the corporation of Township of Bruno, Lindog, and Raglan, and Carrie Lorraine Jane McIntyre, Alan Philip McIntyre, and Jason James Russell, Lloyd Stevens. Lloyd Stevens, having been introduced and read first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any mover on that? Councilor Banks, secondary Councilor Claude. Any questions on the bylaw?
No, for me, no.
Okay, I'll call for the vote then, all in favor? And that is carried. One more resolution that we, the council for the Corporation Township of Brunel and Raglan hereby adopts bylaw 2024-08 to amend the bylaw 2003-13 to add Schedule A, site plan control application fees, having been introduced and read first, second, and third time and finally passed. I need a mover on that. Councilor Banks, seconder, Councilor Claude. Any questions of the bylaw?
For me.
No, for me.
All for the vote then, all in favor? And that is carried. So that is the open part of our meeting. And we have a resolution to go into closed session of council. That we, the council for the Corporation of Township of Brunel, Lindau, and Raglan, go into closed session pursuant to Municipal Act 2001, section 2392. For the purposes of 5 items under subsection B regarding personal matters of identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees. 1 item under subsection D, labor relations and employee negotiations. I need to move around. Councilor Banks, seconder, Councilor Claude, all in favor? And that is carried. So we have a resolution that council comes out of closed session at 9:29 PM. Do I have a mover on that? Councilor Banks, and second, Councilor Claude, all in favor, and that is carried. We have a report from closed. In closed session, council discussed 1 item regarding employee negotiations and 5 personal matters about identifiable individuals. So we do have a couple of closed resolutions that come out of closed. So resolution says, whereas Mary Ann has advised that due to a short-term medical leave, she will be absent from the meetings of council for up to 3 successive months, commencing with her planned absence effective February 7th, 2024. And whereas section 2591C of the Municipal Act 2001 25 provides that the office of a member of council becomes vacant if the member is absent from the meetings of council for 3 successive months without being authorized to do so by resolution of council. And be it therefore resolved, the council of the Township of Brunel and Raglan hereby authorizes Mary Ann to be absent from meetings of council for up to 3 consecutive months effective February 7th, 2024, in accordance with section 2591C of the Municipal Act 2001. So I'll need a mover on that. Councilor Claude, secondary Councilor Banks. All in favor? And that is carried. And another resolution that come out of close was that council for the Corporation of the Township of Brunel, Lindau, and Raglan hereby direct the clerk treasurer proceed with direction given in close. I need a mover on that. Councilor Claude, secondary Councilor Banks, all in favor? And that is carried. Okay. We're now down to the confirmation bylaw that we, the council for the Corporation of the Township of Brunel, Lindau, and Raglan hereby adopts bylaw 2024-09, the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the February 7th, 2024 regular meeting of council, having been introduced and read at first, second, and third time and finally passed. I need a mover on that. Councilor Claude, secondary Councilor Banks, all in favor, and that is carried. And we have one more motion resolution, and that this meeting adjourns at 9:30 PM, and I just need a mover on that. Councilor Claude, all in favor, and that's carried, meeting adjourned.